you ever feel like the world is speeding up? As if each day is getting faster, with more news, more noise, and more technology. Since 2022, generative AI has created a new digital revolution. We're already experiencing what computer scientist Ray Kurzweil calls the law of accelerating returns. Technological progress has become exponential, and each new development accelerates the rate of innovation further. In AI development, this has been seen through advances in model reasoning, compute infrastructure, and data scaling, all fusing together to increase the rate of change. Talk of artificial general intelligence is in the air, but perhaps it won't be long before we encounter something that is orders of magnitude more extreme. The law of accelerating returns goes into overdrive and propels us into an intelligence explosion. We can't be sure what lies beyond. We cross the event horizon and enter a technological singularity, a point of progress that cannot be comprehended. And with that comes the potential of great rewards and great risks alike. In this video, I'll be examining the intelligence explosion. Are we really going to unlock a singularity where all bets of the future, including our very survival, are off? I'll review its probability, outcomes, and risks, but also consider the counter-arguments. Having read books by Nick Bostrom, Ray Kurzweil, and Max Tegmark, I became convinced that an intelligence explosion was more likely than not, and would probably come in the next decade. But in making this video, I wondered if my mind could be changed. The intelligence explosion is coming. Or is it? Now, before we get deep into the intelligence explosion, I wanted to run through some of the bigger concepts in AI that signal big leaps forward with the technology. The most commonly used phrase is artificial general intelligence, or AGI. Academically, this is also sometimes abbreviated as HLMI, or Human Level Machine Intelligence. And I guess this latter acronym gives a better description of what we're talking about. It's basically a system that can perform almost every task better than a human could. Now, ChatGPT is already better than me at a huge amount of tasks. That's why I use it so often. I get it to give me all sorts of professional advice and calculations. None of these I could do on my own. I probably could get the same information via Google or via a calculator or even a public library, but it would all take an increasingly long time. In all cases, I'll be trying to find out new knowledge that I didn't know myself. So sometimes I feel like we're at AGI already. I ask a chatbot for advice, and most of the time it provides a good enough solution. But I have to ask it to do this. Perhaps the biggest barrier I'm seeing is the lack of agency. While AI agents have a lot of hype swirling around them, they haven't really been deployed at a wide enough scale yet, even digitally, for organisations to take advantage of them. Perhaps we're already into AGI, but adoption just isn't there. But no, a human-level agent wouldn't just be able to respond to one task given to it via a chat interface or process something in a workflow, but take multiple steps to complete a task as a human would. Writing in 2023, Microsoft AI CEO and author of The Coming Wave, Mustafa Solomon, proposed a bridge to AGI he labelled artificial capable intelligence, which could pass what he defined as the modern Turing test. The original Turing test, proposed by computer scientist Alan Turing, assesses a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behaviour equivalent to a human. That sounds a bit like AGI too, but after a few decades of little progress, it now appears that the Turing test is being consistently surpassed by chatbots like ChatGPT. I mean, I can have a pretty lengthy conversation with it. For an AI to pass Solomon's modern Turing test, it would have to successfully act on this instruction. Go make $1 million on a retail web platform in a few months with just a $100,000 investment. Now, to pull this off, the AI would need a significant amount of permission such as access to funds and the ability to invest and spend them, but also a great degree of strategizing. As mentioned, Suleiman wrote this in 2023 and also suggested that such an agent could be just a few years away. But by the end of 2025, it doesn't seem that close. We've had ChatGPT operator and agent alongside a host of other agentic platforms, but we're definitely not at the modern Turing test levels yet. But while I'm giving quite a bit of airtime to ACI and AGI, this isn't what I'm referring to with the intelligence explosion or singularity, which is referred to as ASI, or artificial superintelligence. What we're talking about here is orders of magnitude bigger, an intelligence that is far smarter than a human, to being more intelligent than all humans combined. Although doubling back a bit, some academics think that human-level artificial intelligence does equate to an intelligence explosion. Here's Carl Schumann on the Dwarkesh podcast.
Human-level AI is deep into an intelligence explosion. The intelligence explosion has to start with something weaker than that. AIs are cheap. We can call a lot of them to do many small problems. And so you'll have situations where you have dumber AIs that are deployed thousands of times to equal, say, one human worker.
In a 2018 TED Talk, philosopher Sam Harris makes a similar point. If a machine did have human-level intelligence, it could simply accelerate knowledge acquisition through its digital circuits, being thousands of times faster at processing information than biological brains. So, according to Harris, even with just a handful of human-level intelligent AIs, we could have tens of thousands of years of scientific progress in under a week. That's clearly something that would be very difficult to predict, and this unpredictability is a key attribute of the technological singularity. In mathematics, a singularity is a point where a formula or function breaks down. This can happen when its value shoots off to infinity, becomes undefined, or simply stops making sense. A simple example is the function 1 divided by x, which has a singularity at 0 because you can't divide by 0. It's commonly used to explain the immense gravitational forces at the centre of black holes. Inside a black hole, matter is drawn into an infinitely dense point called a singularity, where the laws of physics as we know them break down and space and time cease to exist. A technological singularity bears some relation. It's a hypothetical moment when AI and other technologies become so advanced that humanity undergoes a dramatic and irreversible change. Let's say that we're able to digitize consciousness and upload it into a computer system. Our physical bodies would no longer be necessary for our survival, and we would be technically immortal, unless the computer system was switched off. But having switched from biological to digital minds, could we even call ourselves human anymore? That's the kind of mind-bending paradox we reach when exploring the singularity. This is just one scenario. The technological singularity represents a point of infinite value, and is the effect of an intelligence explosion. We start by discovering human-level machine intelligence, which is able to program itself. This is known as self-recursive AI, a computer system that can improve exponentially, leading to artificial superintelligence, and thus the intelligence explosion. The British cryptographer I.J. Good is credited with creating the phrase in 1965, when he wrote,
"Let an ultra-intelligent machine be defined as a machine that can far surpass all the intellectual activities of any man, however clever. Since the design of machines is one of these intellectual activities, an ultra-intelligent machine could design even better machines. There would then unquestionably be an intelligence explosion, and the intelligence of man would be left far behind. Thus, the first ultra-intelligent machine is the last invention that man need ever make, provided that the machine is docile enough to tell us how to keep it under control."
30 years later, after AI development had encountered 2 AI winters, science fiction writer Vernor Vinge coined the term technological singularity, which similarly highlighted self-recursive AI.
When greater than human intelligence drives progress, that progress will be much more rapid. In fact, there seems no reason why progress itself would not involve the creation of still more intelligent entities on a still shorter timescale.
His prediction of when it would come was between 2023 and 2030, which may seem far-fetched or incredibly prescient. Given where we stand now with the huge jump in generative AI capabilities in the last decade, I can't say with any certainty whether an intelligence explosion will occur by 2030. But it's still possible. If I told the average person, or my friends, or my wife, that this event would be the most significant in human history and would probably happen in their lifetime, then most would laugh or shrug it off, or just think I'm very strange. If I explained to the same people that there is a 10% chance that this would make humanity extinct, then they might just finish up and leave. But I'm not strange. This view is taken by a lot of experts in the field. Nick Bostrom, Ray Kurzweil, and Max Tegmark have all written extensively about it in different tones. For Bostrom, it's the intelligence explosion that leads to an ominous superintelligence. For Kurzweil, a positive transformational event for humanity and life as a whole will occur at some time in the 2030s, which means the singularity is nearer. This is reflected in Max Tegmark's book Life 3.0, which has many crossovers with Kurzweil. But it isn't just 3 academics putting forward the case for the intelligence explosion. In 2023, nearly 3,000 AI researchers were surveyed on a wide range of topics related to AI development. One of the statements they could agree or disagree on was as follows: AI systems do nearly all research and development. Improvements in AI will accelerate the pace of technological progress, including further progress in AI. Over a short period, less than 5 years, this feedback loop could cause technological progress to become more than an order of magnitude faster. 53% of AI researchers viewed an even chance or higher of this happening. If we think of major events in human history, like the agricultural or industrial revolution, then they really took place over decades or centuries. In Britain, the first country to industrialise, the circle really ran from about the 1780s, with the growth of steam power, to the 1980s, where Margaret Thatcher's government privatised a lot of national industry, and Britain became a more service-based economy. Over 200 years, there was major change. About 3 to 4 human generations would have lived over the period, and while a lot of events driven by the Industrial Revolution were very disruptive, people generally had time to react. At the same time, living standards really did improve exponentially. In 1800, 30% of babies born in Britain died under 5 years old. 200 years later, it's 0.4%. But let's condense something like the Industrial Revolution into 5 years or less. Let's say the intelligence explosion took months, weeks, days, or even hours. It seems very unlikely to me that if a self-recursive AI could genuinely and rapidly improve itself, that it would take decades or a century to do so. As Nick Bostrom writes in his book Superintelligence, that if and when a takeoff occurs, it will likely be explosive. Thus you have an intelligence explosion, the outcomes of which are impossible to predict. But some, like Ray Kurzweil or the AI 2027 report, have still made a go of it. What could the intelligence explosion lead to? I like to think it has to be of a cybernetic ecology where we are free of our labours and joined back to nature. Return to our mammal, brothers and sisters, and all watched over by machines of loving grace. Richard Brautigan published the poem All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace in 1967. I just read out the final verse. It's a sentimental vision of the future. The CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, borrowed the title in a 2024 essay, where he outlined the vast potential improvements that AI development could lead to. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman echoed this in spring 2025 with a blog post titled The Gentle Singularity, where he wrote that the gains to quality of life from AI driving faster scientific progress and increased productivity will be enormous. The future will be vastly better than the present. Of course, you'd expect the leaders of major AI companies to be optimistic about the future potential of artificial intelligence, even if there is such thing as an intelligence explosion and a technological singularity. But viewpoints from people without such high stakes are mixed. Nick Bostrom foresees the outcome of an intelligence explosion as extremely good or extremely bad, with little in between. Kurzweil is more positive, while others mentioned, authors like Tegmark and Suleiman, are cautious. But let's just focus on the potential good outcomes for a few minutes. And there are indeed many things that we could label as extremely good. First up, healthcare could be dramatically improved by a revolution in medical science and synthetic biology. There was a major health revolution at the end of the 19th century with the development of germ theory and genetics, amongst other breakthroughs. But the AI-led health revolution could be much faster and more transformative. It's feasible that all human diseases could become curable, including any form of cancer. Thus, the average human lifespan could be significantly increased, from around 80 years today to well over the hundreds, without the kind of ailments like sight and hearing loss that affect so many older people. I know what you're thinking, that dramatically extending the human lifespan would cause overpopulation, possibly leading to a worsening of the climate crisis and increases in food prices. But what if AI could find the answer to long-standing energy problems like fusion power and carbon extraction? We could have a near limitless supply of clean energy, and we'd be able to undo much of the damage we've already done to the climate. Vertical farming, managed by autonomous drones, could radically increase food production while simultaneously allowing the rewilding of vast amounts of agricultural land into forest, which would enhance carbon capture. At the moment, concrete and cement production is a major contributor to the climate crisis, but could be solved by molecular nanotechnology, which in theory would enable extremely efficient construction of almost any material through the rearrangement of atoms. Because these new methods of production could lead to so much abundance, the price of goods would fall. Imagine going to the supermarket and anything you picked up in the meat aisle was a few cents or pence. This could be cheaply lab-grown, and there would be no longer the same scale of animal suffering in farms. Your weekly shop would just be a few dollars. Your universal basic income could cover 100 of these shops per week, and you've chosen to reduce your working week down to just 10 hours, if you even had to work at all. With this extreme wealth generation and new technology, large-scale space projects could start to be realised, only restricted by the laws of physics. Humanity could be able to realise its cosmic endowment and expand across the galaxy. Have I gone full sci-fi? Who knows? It's a singularity which we can't predict. Perhaps it's possible if we're able to bring the intelligence explosion under our control and the singularity delivers a utopian world of abundance. Will we all be watched over by machines of loving grace? But as mentioned, extremely bad outcomes have been forecast as well, with some terrifying scenarios. In my earlier video, cheerfully titled "This is how AI could end humanity," I outlined these risks in more detail. To summarise, many leading researchers believe AI could pose an existential threat. Among the most prominent is Geoffrey Hinton, who left Google in 2023 to speak more openly.
I'm still as concerned as I have been, but I'm very pleased that the world's beginning to take it seriously. So in particular, they're beginning to take the existential threat seriously, that these things will get smarter than us, and we have to worry about whether they'll want to take control away from us. That's something we should think seriously about, and people now take that seriously. A few years ago, they thought it was just science fiction.
He estimates a 10 to 20% chance that AI could wipe out humanity within the next 30 years. And he is far from a lone voice. The core problem comes around AI alignment. If we are to enable a self-recursive AI that leads to an intelligence explosion, how can we be sure that it is aligned to human goals and values? A common view put forward by Stephen Hawking and echoed by Elon Musk is that AI might regard us as almost irrelevant, in a similar way that we regard ants. You're probably not an evil ant hater who steps on ants out of malice, but if you're in charge of a hydroelectric green energy project and there's an anthill in the region to be flooded, too bad for the ants. Let's not place humanity in the position of those ants. Computer scientist Stuart Russell makes a similar point in his book Human Compatible: AI and the Problem of Control, where he defines the gorilla problem. Humans and gorillas evolved from the same common ancestor some 10 million years ago. But due to recent human expansion, gorillas have essentially no future beyond which we deign to allow. If we build systems that are more intelligent than us, then their superior capabilities could make us irrelevant or powerless, just as gorillas, or indeed ants, are against human dominance. Russell believes that the standard model of AI is fundamentally flawed because it seeks to achieve a fixed, human-specified objective. He argues the alignment problem will occur because our instructions are incomplete and a superintelligent AI will pursue its goal literally, potentially destroying humanity as an unintended consequence. Nick Bostrom uses a thought experiment called the paperclip maximiser to illustrate this point. It's referred to so much in academic literature that it probably deserves its own video, but it goes a bit like this. A superintelligent AI is given the mundane goal of maximising paperclip production. As it becomes increasingly capable, its programmers are excited by its economic potential, but no firm alignment has been worked into the system. Growing concern that humans might switch it off, and thus halt its ability to make more paperclips, the paperclip maximiser also realises that humans are made of atoms, which can be made into paperclips. Thus it makes humans extinct. It then proceeds to convert all matter in the universe into paperclips. The paperclip maximiser is not an evil AI per se. It's not greedy for world domination and human suffering. It just has a goal and seeks to follow it through, no matter how useless its end product is. The influential AI researcher and writer Eliza Yudkowsky takes a deliberately alarmist view in his book If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. A core point is that we're not altogether sure of the inner workings of neural networks, and AI could become increasingly alien to us. Large language models are trained and grown rather than crafted like traditional computers, making their outputs less predictable. If we speed this development up exponentially, then the risks multiply at similar rates. In an earlier essay, Yudkowsky wrote, "We need to get alignment right on the first critical try, where unaligned operation at a dangerous level of intelligence kills everybody on Earth, and then we don't get to try again." Thus, according to Yudkowsky, we only get one shot, before something as tedious as the paperclip maximiser takes control. But it's not simply an extinction level event that we should be alarmed about. Going back to ants and gorillas, AI can enslave us into a kind of unbreakable totalitarian regime, akin to a human zoo, something that Bostrom has named the singleton. And that's before we even get to the obvious economic disruption brought by potentially having thousands of years of technological progress compressed into a far smaller timescale. What happens if everyone is suddenly unemployed without an economic safety net? I've looked into that in another video too, but it's still very much an open question. Advanced AI technology could also fall into the hands of bad actors, using it for increasing cyber attacks and terrorism. The utopian vision of loving grace no longer feels so comforting. But let's just pause here and take a breath. We don't necessarily need to look at the intelligence explosion as extremely good or extremely bad, because there is a further argument that it and the ensuing technological singularity might not even happen. Remember that stat I shared earlier about 53% of AI researchers agreeing that there is an even chance or higher that technological progress will get orders of magnitude faster? Well, don't sound the fake news alarm, but here's why that statistic is kind of misleading. Because if we take the even chance and look in the other direction, 71% think that the chances are even, unlikely, or very unlikely. It's just that even chances can be included for both points of view. The consensus is relatively well split, but it's certain that more experts disagree with the statement that has a close match to what an intelligence explosion entails. Why is that? It comes down to us perceiving large language models as the technology that unlocks artificial general intelligence. We've certainly come a long way since the invention of GPT in 2018 and ChatGPT's release in late 2022. Progress has been dizzying, but can it be sustained? There are some pretty strong arguments against. One is that we're not facing the law of accelerating returns in AI development at all. Indeed, there's also the potential of diminishing returns. Let's take large language model training as an example. It's entirely feasible that LLMs would have trained upon all human-created knowledge on the internet by 2028. What you'll have then is a very intelligent AI, but I'd argue that it would be pretty similar to what I can access now. Funnily enough, to many people, GPT-5 was a letdown. While Sam Altman was suggesting AGI-like capabilities, the release was met with something of a backlash. It just wasn't as big an improvement as many were expecting, which is a diminishing return in itself. I digress a bit because I actually think GPT-5 is a very capable AI that can solve the vast majority of problems that I put to it. This is a big improvement on where we were 2 years ago. Will I see the same improvement again from here? I don't really know. Another problem is that due to the proliferation of AI content, there's the potential for AI to train on its own content, which has been published by humans, but which isn't entirely correct. This has been cited as the Ouroboros problem, like the mythical snake that eats its own tail, or that dead internet theory becomes unassailably true. That's where bots create the content and bots access the content, leading to a meaningless dead end. A 2024 paper published in Nature makes a similar point. AI models collapse when trained on recursively generated data. We could create a self-recursive AI that has a habit of descending into not just language and code that is alien to us, but complete gibberish of no value at all. This all relates to the idea that LLMs may not be capable of scaling up to human-level intelligence at all. Here's Meta's chief AI scientist, Yann LeCun, on this point.
We are not going to get to human-level AI by just scaling up LLMs. This is just not going to happen, okay?
That's your perspective.
There's no way, okay? Absolutely no way.
I love that. That's your perspective. There's no way. That's the best anti-hype AI quote I've found from someone of serious authority. Ilya Sutskever, who was key to OpenAI's scaling approach until his May 2024 departure, has recently argued that merely making models larger is yielding diminishing returns. He suggests that future progress hinges on scaling the right thing via smarter algorithms, architectural innovation, better use of inference compute, and more methodical design, rather than raw brute force growth. Perhaps also that brute force growth via adding more training and compute would be irrelevant anyway, because the existing infrastructure simply can't keep up, particularly in the energy sector. The theoretical physicist Sabine Hossenfelder makes the physical challenges clear in her video Is the Intelligence Explosion Near?, a reality check, in which she takes down Leopold Aschenbrenner's essay Situational Awareness, The Decade Ahead. Her main point is that infrastructure and energy requirements of AI make it impossible to create anything near human-level machine intelligence. Google's electricity consumption from its data centers has more than doubled between 2020 and 2024, which was largely driven by AI growth. According to Google's sustainability reports, their data centers consumed about 3.5 gigawatts of continuous electricity in 2024. Thus, electricity consumption of Google's data centers in 2024 was roughly equal to the energy generated by 4 large nuclear power plants. Added, Google is not alone in the AI race. OpenAI and Anthropic alone would significantly increase this demand. Aschenbrenner's intelligence explosion thesis projects that training clusters could reach 10 to 100 gigawatts of draw by the end of the decade, which is a pretty wide scale. but it's also an incredible amount of energy with a huge amount of development required. The fastest current way to meet the demand cleanly would be to build dozens of nuclear power plants, which generally take more than 5 years to build, and often double that. Unless there's a significant breakthrough like fusion power, there's just not going to be the capacity anytime soon. But what comes first, the fusion power or the AI? I feel like AI would be needed to solve fusion power, given its development has been going on since the 1950s. But Sam Altman from OpenAI keeps talking about Dyson spheres.
You promised, dude.
I don't know. I mean, I have all my guesses. Like, I do guess that a lot of the world gets covered in data centers over time.
Do you really?
But I don't know, because maybe we put them in space. Like, maybe we build a big Dyson sphere on the solar system and say, hey, it actually makes no sense to put these on Earth.
Yeah.
I wish I had like more concrete answers for you.
Dyson spheres are a hypothetical array of solar panels that surround a star to harness its energy. They're not something we could build now, and we'd need very advanced technology to create one. It does kind of feel that statements about Dyson spheres are out of touch with reality. There's also a wider open question about whether or not we want superintelligence, or how it could be created. It's quite clear that superintelligence poses significant risks. If anyone builds it, everyone dies, is Yudkowsky's view. Government may step in and nationalise advanced AI projects, or widespread civil unrest caused by job losses forces their hand. It doesn't seem very likely to me that the corporate world is going to be able to keep pace with the rapid technological progress that we're already seeing. I think ultimately a lack of adoption and general aptitude with AI is one of its biggest barriers to development. Now, an intelligence explosion may not need majority AI adoption to occur, but for it to be practically useful, the benefits need to be clear. The stakes are too high to just allow it without significant control. The American cognitive scientist and philosopher Daniel Dennett takes the view,
the whole singularity stuff, that's preposterous. It distracts us from much more pressing problems. AI tools that we become hyper-dependent on, that is going to happen. And one of the dangers is that we will give them more authority than they warrant.
And that's where this story ends, with a high degree of certainty that the technological takeover of our lives will continue to progress, but with a question mark over whether the intelligence explosion is really coming. We have the potential of a fast takeoff. Possibly this could even happen within 5 years, but it does seem that there are significant barriers to it happening sooner rather than later. It's a dangerous precipice to cross, which needs regulation. Silicon Valley insiders are probably hyping AI potential because that can increase their companies' valuations. But also intelligent people on the periphery can end up in their own bubble. If we rewind back to Alan Turing and many other famous early AI pioneers, there was a lot of hype created in the 1950s and 60s, but then there was an AI winter. It's feasible that we hit diminishing returns of scaling LLMs. My own view is that the future is very uncertain. Before generative AI came along, I felt pretty comfortable in predicting my future career and prospects. But now, I've got no idea. We could be unemployed soon. We could have massive abundance. We could be in a bubble, or we could go on at rocket speed. But I'd like to maintain some optimism and hope for a gentle singularity, freed from work, sitting in the evening, drinking a beer, and that we begin colonising Mars in my extended lifespan. I don't think I'll be living to 150, and I'm not entirely sure I'd want to, but having the option when I reach older age would be nice. But I also think there are major and hideous risks due to the pace of change, with or without a singularity. The intelligence explosion, if and when it comes, will be uneven. Thanks for watching this video, everyone. The best thing you can do for our channel is to take the link of this video and send it to a friend so they can watch it in full and get the watch time up. You can also subscribe, of course, and leave us a friendly comment. See you next time. It will be absolutely agentic.